Hello, welcome to Momentum. I'm your host, Robert Green. Happy today to be joined in the studio by Mr. Nicholas Tymkiw. Nick is a 2018 graduate of the Aerospace Engineering program here at Mississippi State, and he's a Propulsion Development Engineer with Leidos. So Nick, welcome. Glad to have you here.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
Good. Thanks for coming. Tell us, why did you end up in in aerospace engineering?
Well, it all started really back in 6th grade when I realized that I was, interested in engineering type topics. I liked space, I liked airplanes, I liked rockets, and I was with my grandfather, who was an engineer who worked on the Apollo program.
Okay.
And we were at the local NASA center going through a bus stop tour, kind of, showing the sights. And the tour guide would ask these questions, and my grandfather would just shout out the answer, and he knew every single one. And it really was right about then that I knew that I wanted to be an engineer and knew the answers like he did.
So sort of a childhood dream then.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
So, of course, aerospace engineering has both aeronautics and astronautics tracks. When did you decide to do astro rather than aero?
I pretty much from the start, from when I knew that there was one of those two tracks, I thought to myself, well, I want to be doing rocket engines. And so that's what I set my sights on. Okay.
So you obviously chose to come here for your undergraduate degree.
Yes, sir.
I know you had to have had several schools to choose from. What put us at the top of the list and got you to enroll here?
Sure. So there were a couple of things. One of them was just that it was a good reputational school. The people that I talked to said, this is a good school. It's going to give you a good grounding in your engineering education. You'll be ready for the workforce when you graduate with your degree from Mississippi State. We always get good prepared engineers, and that was of course appealing. But also, looking at it, the affordability of Mississippi State as a whole, and also the scholarships that the college offered as well, just really made it a very strong contention, because being able to get good return on my value that I'm putting in, right, was a very important metric as well. And then meeting the professors and meeting the advisors within the aerospace department, and understand, hearing everybody say, okay, well, it's not just you as, a number or a face, but you really are a person, and feeling that from the moment that I was on campus doing my tours. And that was luckily something that I was able to have the entire time here. I really did appreciate that.
Good. So roughly, if you remember, how many times did you visit campus before you enrolled?
Oh gosh. Let's see, before I enrolled, probably twice. I did some sort of thing my junior year, probably academic insight, although I don't quite remember, and then something over the summer coming up beforehand.
So I'm curious, how big of an impact was that on making your decision? We always say we're the best kept secret, and people really need to come and see what we have. How important was that visit to your decision?
It was very important. I mean, seeing the campus, and the campus is just beautiful as it always was, but seeing that and seeing the engineering college and all the buildings, and then meeting the faces. I mean, that's it, right? Is that seeing the people and the students and being able to imagine myself as one of those people. And this is one of those places where I could imagine myself as a student very easily.
Yeah. So, of course, after you left us, you went to University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, and got your master's degree in aerospace engineering. When did you decide you wanted to pursue a graduate degree?
I was advised early on to kind of set my sights on graduate school, even if it wasn't something that I ended up doing, but because it was a kind of a mentality thing. If you think you're going to do 4 years and then you realize, oh, well, I kind of want to go further, then that's a completely different shift. Like, now I have to do more, as opposed to, okay, well, I just, I was told, just assume that you're going to do a PhD and just ratchet back to wherever you end up actually going to. And so that was a big part of it. But where I really made that decision that I said I want to do graduate school was probably about sometime in my junior year. I was talking to one of my professors, and he kind of was like, well, you should really think about doing this. And that was about when I really started seriously thinking about going that way.
Okay. Well, while you were here as an undergraduate, you did some internships and all. Can you tell us a little bit about where you worked and what you got out of that experience?
Of course. So my first internship was between my junior and senior year. And I was with NASA, actually down at the same NASA facility that I grew up nearby at Stennis Space Center.
Okay.
So I was with the construction and project management group. So NASA owns Stennis. They own that base in that effect. And so they, as the landlord, they're in charge of all the construction projects on site, typically, and that includes also maintaining the facilities themselves. And so where my internship, I was in charge of, they said, okay, go and look at all the cranes in all the buildings. And they just handed me a list, and they said, here's the list. And then they said, here's the NASA standard for all the maintenance on it. Because you have all these cranes, well, they're not always being used,
Right.
you know, and so they're being maintained at 100%. Well, did they need to be? So I go and do this. That meant that I drove all over the base. I'd knock on all these doors and say, okay, there's a crane somewhere in this building. Can you tell me what you guys do?
Yeah.
And tell me how much you use this crane. And so that was awesome because, you know, when they told me it, I was like, oh, this is silly. But then I realized that it was awesome because I got to go everywhere. People were saying, oh, you know, here's this young guy, he's just interested in this, and they're trying to help us out, you know. Maybe the maintenance guys are a hassle because they don't even use the crane. So, you know, things like that. So I got to see everything that they were doing at this NASA center. I got to go everywhere. And then when I finished that, they said, okay, well, you did a really good job and you finished that faster than we thought. So now we have, you know, Stennis is where they do all their rocket engine testing.
Right.
And that's what I wanted to do. And they said, okay, great. Now your next project is that you're going to go in the field and you're going to help support that rocket engine testing. And so it was just an awesome summer.
Yeah, good. Sounds like you enjoyed it.
Oh, it did.
Yeah.
And yes, sir. So oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, then my next summer, I had met some people working on those stands. Aerojet Rocketdyne was the contractor who develops the main engine for NASA's SLS rocket, and they do that testing out at Stennis. So I met the manager and kind of talked to him, and he said, hey, you know, we might have some internships, keep an eye out. And so then after that, I applied to that, and I worked at my office was on the test stand. If you could have gone through the concrete wall, it was about maybe 15 feet to the rocket engine. And so that was a really awesome summer, being on the test stand and doing all of that testing work was just really great.
Yeah. So you're also active, not only making good grades and working hard and, you know, academically, but you're involved in some organizations as well.
Yes, sir.
Especially Space Cowboys.
Yes.
So tell,
yes.
what is Space Cowboys and how important was that to your education here?
Space Cowboys, I don't know if I can ever overstate how important it was to my education, my time on that team. So Space Cowboys, undergraduate rocket design team, right? So a team of mostly undergrads, maybe a couple of grad students doing some sort of project on there. But these undergrads, we build, test, and, you know, make this rocket every year, or multiple rockets. And so being able to be hands-on, applying the things that I had in the classroom, learning things that I may not have ever learned in the classroom, and being able to bring that into the classroom, that sort of give both ways, was just awesome. My wife would always say, you know, oh, I knew that when you were in the lab, it was going to be 2 hours later than when you actually said you were going to be leaving, because there was always something to do, but it was also the people that I wanted to be spending time with. It was really just an awesome team, an awesome environment where I just got to do really cool work, and I'll always think of that fondly.
Okay. Well, I don't want to put you on the spot, but we talked a little bit about it earlier today. Space Cowboys just completed a very competitive process and won a sponsorship.
Yes, sir.
From Blue Origin.
Yes.
For the team. What do you think that's going to mean to the team? How important is sponsorship to doing the work they do?
Sponsorship is really critical. You know, for at least my period on the team, we were mostly funded by the Mississippi Space Grant, which was nice because we had a set amount of money that we knew we didn't have to go out and scrounge for every year. But at the same time, that sort of sponsorship that Blue has offers now, it's just these type of opportunities to be able to upgrade things, be able to not limit yourselves by the tools that you have, being able to do that. But also, sponsorships are more than just the money, right? It's the connection that you have to the company itself. And so we have a number of Space Cowboys alumni as well as other aerospace alumni with Blue. And so I think that also speaks to the importance of it, because it's that type of relationship that you're able to say, hey, you know, we're interested in this thing. You know, do you guys have somebody that can talk to us about this, and maybe we can understand and incorporate that into what we're doing here on the team? And that, I think that's going to really flourish with the team.
Yeah, good. So, of course, now you're a propulsion development engineer with Leidos.
Yes, sir.
A lot of people aren't familiar with Leidos. We are. I mean, they're great partners. They come here and they, you know, interview and hire our students and all.
Yes, sir.
Can you tell briefly what is Leidos? What do they do?
Oh gosh, Leidos does just about everything, as I'm continually finding out. In particular, you know, we do the airport scanners. I think that's the thing that people see a lot. Do a lot of government services, IT for so much of the company, but also health and civil work as well. And then the thing that I think I find really interesting that I just recently learned about, we do all the things for the International Space Station, all the packages and so on that actually go and fly up there. Leidos does that as well. So our space division, we make a lot of space flight hardware, and that's what I produce as part of that team.
Okay, great. So I know you're working specifically on some rocket engine development and other projects.
Yes, sir.
Can you take us through what does a typical day look like for you as an engineer going to work? What kind of things do you go through?
Of course. Well, so, there's a lot of, a couple of things that I would not have expected as a student, which was I do a lot of like what I like to call email engineering, where, I'm either in a meeting, we're discussing requirements and how do we meet those requirements, or emailing about those type of things. The importance of communication and clearly knowing what we're trying to accomplish and how we're going to go and do it, and then when we're going to go and do it. Those are really just, you can't do anything in the engineering world without knowing those three things, right? And so then forming your team and going out and accomplishing each little task, and then things as they come up. I would say, a lot of my time is, spent at my desk, working on that, designing the next solution, and writing up the procedure to go and do that work, because it's say what you do and then do what you say, right? And then so being down on the floor and doing that do what you say. So I love my role because I get to both be at my desk, and then I get to be having my hands on the hardware, working with the team, and actually making spaceflight hardware and getting to touch that every day.
Yeah, so obviously the education you got here helped you be successful. So
Yes.
Minute and a half or so left. Are there things that you wish you had taken advantage of while you were a student here that didn't, or are there things you took advantage of that you would like to have taken greater advantage of?
Sure. I mean, the thing that I'm most glad I took advantage of course, is being on a student design team. But it's funny, I always look back and say, oh man, I wish I could have taken that, free time, infinite time to be able to go and study something that I found interesting at the time. I'll find that whether in work or, off the clock when I'm just doing my own hobbies, that these are things that continually come up. So those sort of interests are always there. But just being able to appreciate the concept of here I am, and my classes are finished, my homework is finished, and I'm able to go out and just be with my friends and experience that type of purity of freedom that we had then without responsibilities is always something that I'll look back and be like, man, I wish I could just have 10 more minutes of that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Nick, I'm afraid we're out of time. As we record this, we're actually in the middle of the Winter Olympics, and
Yes,
I was
sir.
hoping to be able to talk some about your participation in curling.
Yes, sir.
But maybe we'll have to get you back to talk about that.
Always happy to talk about curling.
But congratulations on your success. We're really proud of you as being a graduate from the Bagley College of Engineering.
Thank you.
Appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you. It was
And I
a
want to thank
pleasure.
all of you for joining us today as well. And I look forward to seeing you next time on Momentum.